Hey, my name's Leena, or is it? I am answering 40 questions during the period of Lent. Imagine if Lent was one long period. How much shorter would Jesus have made it? I'm answering a question from one of you guys every single day. And today's question is from Leena. And she says, Leena, I have a question I'm not sure is personal. I've heard it mentioned that you used to go by a different version of your name, and I'm curious to why when you switched to Leena and how you feel about your name. For those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, there is a long and short answer to this. So in summary, to clear up any of the mysteries, no, I am not a criminal. That would have been more exciting. My whole name is Kathleen, and if you've watched this channel for a really long time, I used to go by Kathy. Very few people in my new life, in my adult life, really know that that was the thing. But I was actually Kathy the whole way through university, and I changed to Leena when I was like 22 I think, and there wasn't really it was kind of a really big thing, and it was also like a really small thing, so my mum used to call me Leena just because it's the end of Kathleen. And basically when I switched towns and jobs and universities, just thought now's the time to just introduce myself as something else and nobody knows. I realised that I wasn't as keen on the name Kathy as I thought, and I didn't think it described who I currently was. I didn't like the connotations that came with the name Kathy, and I'm really addicted to change. And there isn't that much of a story really past that, but I wanted to make 2 points about that. The first one, not to over-intellectualise things. When I was doing my English degree, I learnt about this thing called structuralism, which really excited me. Post-structuralism is a thing that everyone seems obsessed with, but nobody seems to talk as much about what structuralism actually is. And it's the thought process I became kind of obsessed with at uni and started writing about structuralism and feminism, structuralism and the idea of the witch, structuralism and queerness, structuralism and ebooks at one point, but that is a dissertation for another day. This is a standard textbook that's used in loads and loads of universities on loads and loads of English courses throughout the country, and the guy who wrote it, Peter Barry, was actually my personal tutor and lecturer, which I was really, really happy about. So if you go to Aberystwyth University, there's a video about that here, you might get taught by Peter Barry, who is, quite frankly, a living legend. On structuralism, he says, I would say that its essence is the belief that things cannot be understood in isolation, that they have to be seen in the context of the larger structures that they are part of, hence the term structuralism. It's a really simple concept. In fact, you probably already inherently know that. But what I like about English and theory in general is that when you think about really simple concepts and actually sit down and think about them, there is a lot more to be thought about than your brain would automatically assume. The structures in question here are those imposed by our way of perceiving the world and organising experience, rather than objective entities already existing in the external world. It follows from this that meaning or significance isn't a kind of core or essence inside things, rather meaning is always outside. Meaning is always an attribute of things, in the literal sense that meanings are attributed to the things by the human mind, not contained within. Now, when you're a kid and you're in primary school, the first thing you learn how to write is your name. When you hang up your coat at playtime, your name is on your peg. When you're a kid and you have barely any personality traits, the way you are called, the way you personally differentiate yourself from other people is your name. And I think as we grow up, when we become more complex, we don't start to really realise that our name isn't a huge part of who we really are. In some ways, looking back, I feel like after university, I changed how I wanted people to refer to me as, almost as a reminder that I'm not really anything. When I realised that I can respond to Kathleen and Kathy and Leena in kind of the same way, it's a kind of cool reminder in my head that I'm not really anything permanent at all, and I get to choose who I am, and that can change at any time. And I think a lot of people find comfort in stable environments and stable facts and things like that. I find comfort in the idea that nothing is really that permanent. Everything is open to change. And I feel like learning about structuralism and that idea, learning that a tree is not inherently a tree, it's only a tree because we say it's a tree, and the reason we have a name for a tree and a bush is how we start to think about those two things as separate, whereas if we just called bushes and trees both trees, would they really both be trees? Colours, do we call a whole group of colours orange? That, in another parallel universe, people would never have put together in a group, and they would say it completely different colours. And would that change the way we see oranges? So yeah, when I realised that about structuralism, I kind of let myself change my name. I also kind of like that I changed my name. The other point is that because of structuralism, because I know that people have assumptions about names, I allowed myself to change my name because I always feel like, especially when I'm going into this adult world and I'm reintroducing myself, and often in the adult world you introduce yourself not by your face but by your voice or by an interaction over the internet. And I felt like the language of the name Kathy, from the place that I was from and the place that I was living, meant white, old, pretty fuddy-duddy, quite stuffy, older woman. And again, like, lots of people know the name Kathleen, but what I get all the time is people go, Kathleen, my nan's called Kathleen. Well done, my nan was also called Kathleen, that is why I'm called Kathleen. And I like that links to my past, don't get me wrong, but I also felt like it aged me automatically for people who hadn't met me. And Leena just sounds a lot more like, and I also believe in the power of onomatopoeia and like things like sounding how they are, and I like the name Leena because it feels more in line with my energy, and like it's either a good impression or a good warning for people that I literally don't stop moving. Did you guys go by different names? Is that a weirder thing than people? People are always shocked by it, but I don't think it's that weird. I think lots of people have changed their name. So let me know if that's you in the comments. I'm answering a question every day in Lent, apart from Sundays, because that is the Sabbath. So if you do have a question for me, leave them below. If you'd like to watch the playlist of all the questions I've answered, we've talked about everything from films, to love, to productivity, to careers. The playlist is there for you to watch. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more. Share it if you liked it. Like it if you shared it. And I will see you tomorrow. Frog Snog out.